Normal. A word that is so difficult to define that it is actually boring. We live our whole lives being induced to be normal, to fit into something predefined. Be normal, act normal, live normally. But what actually is being normal? How does one define being normal? What does being normal mean to you? To have a normal life, have friends, a family, someone you like, go to school or work, and that's it? It would be something more or less like this, right? But this is a more complex question than it seems. Okay, a lot of people see what I just said as normal, but how often do you see someone really normal? I mean, if normal was really normal, normally most people would be normal, right? And why doesn't that happen? Because everyone has a different way of living their normal. Nobody has that formula for how to live. Everyone is trying to deal with life in their own different ways, which for them, according to how they grew up, are the normal. Many deal with this very well, others have some level of difficulty until they get in gear into something that the same person can say is normal. Something that I consider normal to do in my daily life is not necessarily your normal thing to do. Being normal is something very flexible and without a concrete answer. But in today's story, maybe we can't answer what living normally is, but it's certainly possible to say that this guy's life is not normal. He's a legendary assassin even in the underworld of the eastern country. Even people very deep in this hole think that his existence is just something from a story of little books to put children to sleep. So when this subject is mentioned, the nickname that spread was the Fable. This guy spent his whole life training like a machine to be the best in this line of execution. But he's not alone. He's a part of an unnamed organization much bigger than him. They are the Fable, in theory. And suddenly, that same organization gives him a mission: go to Osaka and live normally. Okay? In this case, it's a little easier to say that normal for him is literally everything that doesn't involve killing someone for work, right? Because that's his normal, not the whole world's. Which is a fucking irony, right? The guy is a mega assassin, and now the only thing he wants to do to prove himself as a true professional is to be normal. Of course, what's normal for other people is different from what's normal for him. So what he assumes to be a normal life is much more difficult to live than carrying out a murder without a single mistake. Suddenly, taking care of a Brazilian parrot is more difficult than dealing with an entire warehouse of armored Yakuza. This juxtaposition perspective is an exaggerated way of showing the question I asked you. Everyone has, assumes, and imagines a different normal. Being normal or acting normally is just an idea of the time we live in, something established and imposed by society's expectations than being something that you really are. Many hundreds of years ago, throwing your little poopsies out of the window into the street was normal as long as you did it at night. Nowadays, try doing that to see what's going to happen. So being normal is just the lack of extremes of that specific moment. It's like a graph. If you stand out too much, you move out of the norm to one side. If you withdraw too much, you become out of touch on the other side. To stay in the middle is a balance. Follow the rules, stay in your corner. There is no one definition that fits everything that is normal. Depends a lot on the context. It's not just an answer. When the assassin goes to Osaka with his supposed sister, he's given the name of Akira Sato. Even though he's someone extremely capable, he has to try to balance himself on the normality graph, often with concepts he doesn't know. That is not normal for him. He's a walking paradox. Because he's so different, even his attempts of being normal become something that stands out. At one point, some guys come to beat him up. If he moves a finger, we all know those guys would be on the floor in a pool of blood in a few seconds. But in an attempt to be seen as someone ordinary, his performance was enough to catch the eye of a girl who was just passing by, and involuntarily involving her in something bigger than her biggest nightmares. Are you understanding what I mean? His difficulties, the silly things he does and make you laugh, try to explain exactly what it means to be normal. And no one is normal. Being normal is just an act, a theater. Everyone tries to fit into what their surroundings say is normal. Everyone molds themselves into something according to the expectations of others. Here in the fable is just a more exaggerated and explicit version of it all. Being normal is being authentic to yourself, or is it just a facade? Yeah, I'm already getting too much into philosophy, right? People may be starting to have some existential crisis, my bad. But the fable has a very different feel to what you normally read out there. Not only is the art style something that looks like someone drew over a photo, but the way of telling the story and intertwining all the characters into a concept that would be the search for what exactly it means to be normal is very interesting, showing that everyone has their different struggles. For some, being a yakuza, dealing with the underworld, collecting money, having a bizarre soul plan is the normal, but for others, just printing professional cards is normal, and for some, the act of killing is the normal, and everyone tries to live in the same environment around Sato and Yoko, who are there just really in the naked vibe at home, drinking alcohol like a camel, trying their best to be normal. And they are so professional that they manage to be so much normal that they are more normal than most people around them who are supposed to be normal. So why do we have this obsession with being normal? Nobody is normal, everyone fails miserably at being normal. So normal is not normal, the normal thing is to be different. Yo, could their names be a reference to NHK Yoko, so like Sato, Misaki? At the beginning, Ebihaga from the group Yakuza Maguro comes with a talk about Hikikomori and such. Yeah, I think the author of the fable just wanted to make the ending he wanted with both characters, if you know what I mean. Speaking of Ebihaga, great stories and amazing moments happening in the story, Misaki's situation, Hina, Kai, the ending with Azami, Matsu and the other guys there, but what really got me was what Kuro did with the Hakusuka. That's unfair, man. 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm there screaming, no, bro. Ebihaga was too lax with him. I can't even imagine what I would do if they did that to my baby, and I'm not even a Yakuza. I mean, Ebihaga is Flow's basis, right? So he can't be doing that. Best character, there's no way, but you can't have one less Hakusuka in the world. How absurd. But anyway, it's amazing that they managed to put cars, bushcraft and explore the biology of mushrooms in just one story. Of course I would like this story, right? There's no doubt about it. The story isn't perfect. It has its strange moments, parts that you don't understand, but there are a lot of good moments in many different ways. Moments that will make you laugh like a monkey, get pissed off, think it's awesome for being simply amazing. But there are also those moments that will just hit you deep inside your soul. Yukagi's situation with Hei right at the beginning of the second part, it's very heavy. Anyone who's been through this knows how painful it is, and to see that coming from someone like him was really cool. So there are a lot of interesting stuff in this story that a lot of people ignore just because of the art style that isn't very conventional, especially if you don't consume seinen or delinquent style manga. But on the bright side, there's the manga, there's the anime, and there's even the live action, so you can pick your poison. Of course, the New Game Plus of the second part will never be better than the first one, but it's still very good. And in this line of thoughts, about the warning about 18 plus that I put at the beginning, consider it a lot, okay, because really happens some stuff without limits here in this story. I don't want to traumatize anyone for nothing, mainly because I usually make videos of anime and manga that are a lot lighter, right? But anyway, at the end of the day, being normal isn't easy, because just as this story shows, being normal is something that changes. Yesterday's normal is not today's normal. Please don't take a shot whenever I say normal in this video, you will go into a coma, leave the drinks to Yoko. But being normal is often not worth pursuing, because you will be giving away who you are and losing your internal connection simply to a concept that doesn't even care about you. So if you have this struggle inside you, or at some point you wonder what it means to be normal, that maybe you are not, just remember this naked guy over there, a professional trying to live a life that isn't his, a normal life, while he does everything but the normal. And just like the famous Tomioka Jakao, let's keep doing our best. Hey, they make Pinty look how cool.